Hey guys. So I am an extreme introvert. I'm going to try to pretend to be an extrovert. And this is way outside my comfort zone. But during this season of life, I've pledged to do the hard things. So I'm going to tell you about my mother. Next month marks the 6-year anniversary of the death of the person who called herself my mother. True, she was my mother, but she never did any actual mothering, meaning she did not raise me with care or affection. It all began one cold night in Buffalo in June of 1968. That's what she told me as a little girl, that she had to leave the comfort of her twin-sized bed to seek the warmth of my father. Basically, she got pregnant because she was cold, and that's why I'm here. Imagine as a little girl, that's the only reason you're told for your existence. See, I was raised on a strict diet of toxic relationships, alcoholism, and manipulation. My father died when I was 7, leaving me with no one but my mother. She always told me that she never remarried because that would have been unfair to me. But I was made to be her constant companion. She had discarded her parents and her siblings a long time ago, and she had no desire for adult friendships. Being her entire focus, she made sure that I realized that I was not good enough. I was not smart enough. I was not pretty enough. However, she did have one love language, and that was to buy the best material goods available. I was supplied with the most expensive gifts she could buy. If she needed to show me that she loved me, she would buy me a diamond ring, she would buy me the latest designer handbag, and she even bought me a fancy new sports car. But I never received an encouraging word. I never received a hug, or even a loving correction to help establish boundaries in my life. As I became a teenager, this only further complicated my life. Friendships at school were impossible. I had no idea how to interact with the other girls, so I chose to isolate myself from them. That drew teasing and hatred from them. They would spit at me at school, and they keyed my fancy 300ZX Turbo. At that point, I became fascinated with boys and alcohol. The alcohol numbed my emotional emptiness, and it was super easy to get living with an alcoholic. And the boys, well, the boys, they weren't mean to me. In fact, they all told me that they loved me, and I was more than happy to earn their love and attention any way I could. Somehow, deep down inside, I felt that these actions were digging an enormous black hole into my soul. My life was such a mess, and my mother only added to the chaos. Looking back, if she had just given me a few boundaries, but she only reinforced my behavior with tongue lashings and her rage. Perhaps her favorite tool was to put me out of her house with nothing, because everything belonged to her. One night, I slept in a ditch in the middle of the winter, hoping that I would never wake up. After that, I was pretty convinced the only answer to my problems was to no longer exist. I carefully crafted a plan and climbed into my sports car one morning and sped off a sharp turn down a steep embankment and ended up upside down in a river. And of course, I didn't wear my seatbelt because that would have defeated the purpose. I rolled and rolled. It felt like forever. When I hit the creek bottom, I was conscious. I mean, how did that happen? I was upside down, the driver's door wouldn't open, but I was able to crawl over to the passenger side and open that door and climb back up to the street. I literally walked away without a scratch. However, the car wasn't as fortunate and was completely totaled. At that moment, I knew there was a God who had a plan for my life. I tried finding him at first at the Catholic Church. That felt like I was a cog in some great gear that wasn't moving. Then I went off to college, and I denied his existence. And I continued to do so until I met my husband, Matt. Matthew was so kind to me. He really cared about me, enough that he wrote letters to 20-plus credit card companies to have me close all my accounts. Then he helped me get a consolidation loan to pay off all those bills. I knew he knew God, but I never wanted to talk about it. When he asked me to marry him, I realized God was calling me. See, the Hebrew translation for Matthew is gift from God. And I kept hearing that verse in Ecclesiastes about how 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. This realization became my anthem for my marriage. I would find God. I needed his help to keep us together. He was the third cord. God had given me this gift in Matthew, and he would have to guide me to keep us together. We sailed blissfully through our first year of marriage. My mother was so angry that I'd married someone she considered so far beneath my station, meaning he wasn't filthy rich. She was diagnosed with diabetes, and she was losing her eyesight. And Matt, he felt it was his duty to care for her, that we should have her live with us so that we could care for her. We bought a house together in December of 1996. For months, she tried poisoning our relationships any way she could. Finally, one night in April of 1997, she was drunk and began a fight with me over something random. Whatever it was, I took Matt's side, and that seriously infuriated her. He arrived home shortly after that, and she started quarreling with him. As he tried to defuse the situation, she grabbed a huge kitchen knife and tried to stab him. She chased him all over the house, until she finally dropped the knife. I called the police and had her taken in for detox and a psych evaluation. Well, being the master of lies and manipulation that she was, she apparently convinced the doctor that Matt was beating both of us. The doctor called and questioned me at length about how often I left my mother alone at home with my husband. The doctor was concerned for my safety and well-being. I assured him everything was okay. And after that, I never spoke to her again. That is, until July of 2003. It was her 70th birthday, and with the guidance of a church friend, I decided to call her. I said, "Hello, Mother." And after a long pause, she replied, "I'm no one's mother. You must have the wrong number." Somehow I managed to continue that conversation. I was so nervous to begin a new relationship with her. I worried that it would invite turmoil and dysfunction into our lives. I tried to keep her at arm's length. She was able to meet the grandchildren that she never wanted. Alexander was 4 and Sophia was a few months old. She never bonded to them or really even tried, but that's probably because she didn't know how to. I tried my best to take care of her. She was so sick the last 7 years of her life. Time, distance, and becoming an adult and growing in Christ brought the realization that she really did the best that she knew how. I have no idea what trauma from her past crippled her entire life. And while it's taken a while to forgive her, and if I'm completely honest, I'm still working on that one, but where she failed, God was faithful. And while her past ruled her present, I've refused to allow that to happen to me. Most importantly, when I met and fell in love with Jesus, I wasn't about to exchange one set of chains for another. In Galatians 5, chapter 1, Paul tells us, Christ has set us free to live a free life. So take your stand. Never again let anyone put a harness of slavery on you. This is my stand. Tonight, with this act of bravery, I'm breaking every chain that would whisper lies to me and have me remain in the audience instead of on this stage speaking to you. Thanks, guys. But this is not just for me. This is for all of us who struggle with identity. This is for all of us who've grown up with a distorted view of love and relationship. So to those of you that this has happened to, I say to you, discard who the world tells you you are. Put all those lies into a pile and light them on fire. Jesus died for me, and he died for you. You can ignore him. You can deny him. You can fight him. But once you accept him, embrace him, and follow him, you will finally become the person that you were created to be. I did. Thanks for letting me share with you guys.